Another suggestion from the chat in one of my live premieres, Shriek of the Mutilated has everything I could possibly want from a movie to feature it on this show. It's 86 minutes of super weird, unintentional hilarity as a group of students go looking for a Yeti, but end up finding the shaggy dog instead. Hey guys, welcome back to the show, and on this episode I'm going to be talking about Shriek of the Mutilated, a movie that features Yeti hunting, religious cults, impeccable 70s fashion. It's got it all. And check out this sweet poster. This looks super cool. It's just too bad that the movie really doesn't live up to this at all. We begin with these university students attending Yeti Class, I guess, and Professor Ernst Prell is like, hey, check out these drawings. Now, how can you tell me the Yeti isn't real? Just look at the detail here. The professor is taking the students on a road trip the next day so that they can try to find a Yeti on Boot Island. And where is Boot Island, you might ask? Well, it's somewhere in upstate New York, where we all know Yetis are known to congregate. Seriously though, this is just supposed to be a fictional location. The only Boot Island that I know of is in Nova Scotia. And even that looks more like a clog, if anything. So the professor is like, everybody go home, get plenty of sleep, pack your best animal print vest, and be ready in the morning because we leave early in my van to go solve the mystery of the Yeti. And I know what you're thinking. Wow, when you put all the elements together, this is starting to look like some Scooby-Doo type shit. Then, as they all start to leave, he gets Keith to stay behind. The others are excited about going to a party that night, and when Keith makes it outside, he tells Karen that he'll have to catch up with them later.
Hey, I'm sorry, but the old man pressed me into dinner. You don't mind going alone, do you?
Oh, Keith.
Well, what could I tell him?
I don't know, that you have plans? See, this is why everybody needs a good excuse in their back pocket at all times, for every situation. Sounds like another great small business idea. That is a pretty awkward situation though. I mean, a teacher asking you out to dinner is awkward enough, but then you add in the fact that you're spending the next few days with him on a field trip. That's tough. Because let's say you make up an excuse as to why you can't go to dinner, and then he's kind of pissed off about it, and then throughout the field trip, he's just being passive aggressive with you. So that night, the rest of them go to the college party, which is filled with the stuff you'd find at any college party. Booze, dancing, meat, bored people, and popcorn. Then this former student of Dr. Prell shows up, Spencer St. Clair, and he starts freaking out when he hears about the field trip and starts ranting about how Dr. Prell once took him on a field trip where 3 of his friends died and that Dr. Prell is at it again. Then he goes over what happened in this terrible looking flashback. And I'm telling you right now, that's all I'd need to be like, yeah, you know what? I'm skipping that field trip tomorrow. I mean, you're about to get into this guy's van for 6 hours to go to an island, and this guy is like, yeah, don't do it. I did it and people died. And then he goes into detail about what happened. And yeah, sure, I mean, seems pretty unhinged, but wouldn't that be at least a little bit concerning? After the party, the hostess apologizes to Karen and Lynne for Spencer.
He does carry on about that episode. I suppose it was dreadful for him.
Yeah, I mean, who knew watching 3 of your friends die would lead to some lasting mental health problems? Meanwhile, Dr. Prell takes Keith out to this very exclusive restaurant where he orders this strange meat for both of them called ginseng. And I gotta say, if this was me back in college, missing a party because a teacher insisted on taking me out to dinner, and then I don't even get to pick from the menu, he just orders me some strange meat? Yeah, I'd be pretty annoyed. Seriously, I mean, I don't mess with strange meats in general. I got stomach issues, I got IBS, I gotta walk a very thin tightrope whenever I go out to restaurants. So yeah, sorry, couldn't do it. I'd be like, look, I appreciate the gesture, but I have stomach problems. Think I'm just gonna go with the chicken fingers and fries. Know what's in those. Anyways, the next day they finally get to Boot Island, a private island apparently, with a private bridge. Must be nice. And then they arrive at the home of Carl Werner, and he's like, yep, there's a Yeti here all right. And I just don't see how that's possible. I mean, how could a Yeti sneak onto this property? It's private. Just look at those security measures. Good luck getting past that chain without a key. Karen is super pissed off with Keith because he didn't even call last night. And he's like, look, I had strange meat in my mouth. I couldn't get away. What the hell was I supposed to do? At least you got to have fun. She goes for a walk outside to let off some steam and runs into Laughing Crow, Carl's housekeeper who can't really speak. And he's chopping wood in his typical wood chopping attire.
He's a harmless old buzzard, and he takes very good care of me.
And you know what, Karen? It would be polite not to scream and treat this guy like a monster. I mean, he's just doing his job, and you are a guest here. At least Keith knows how to act around this gentleman.
Oh, you must be Laughing Crow. Is it time for dinner?
Downstairs, everyone is inquiring as to what happened to Laughing Crow and why he can't talk. But Carl doesn't want to divulge that information.
I won't go into it now. It's much too involved. A weaker man would never have survived. The Orientals excel in preparing.
Hey, so this is a little bit awkward. I don't know how to bring this up. So, you know what? I'm just going to come right out and say it. That guy just walked into my room, stood there in the doorway, stared at me, farted, and then left. I mean, what the hell, man? And he doesn't speak, so I'll never know why he did it. And that's why I'm just getting down here now, because I had to wait for it to clear out, because I didn't want to walk through it. And this was not an accident, all right? This was like a 7-second rip, and I'm not exaggerating. Seriously, think about how long that is. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. Anyways, Tom isn't a big fan of the meal that Laughing Crow prepared, which is the same strange meat dish that Keith had at the restaurant, Jin Sung.
Is something wrong, Tom?
Nothing a good stomach pump wouldn't cure.
Could you imagine going over to someone's house, having dinner, and then saying something like that? Probably not. Which is why it's actually great to have a guy like Tom around, because if dinner was truly that disgusting, he'll say something about it, and you don't have to. I think we've all known somebody at one point or another like Tom. They just don't have a filter, and they say the things that you're thinking, but you can't say.
Oh, this is crap.
Carl starts telling the story about how he was making tea one night and then heard a Yeti howling. So he went outside where he felt like he was being watched, and he kind of liked it. Then he smelled this incredibly foul stench, and there it was, off in the distance, the Yeti. And I gotta say, that's not really proof of a Yeti at all. It could just as easily be somebody in a onesie taking a dump outside your house as a prank. I think that's much more likely. Not that I've ever... As they're getting ready for bed, Karen says that the story of the Yeti really creeped her out. And quite honestly, Karen, there's a lot of things going on here that are much more creepy than some stupid story. The guy with the axe who can't talk for some mysterious reason, the strange meat you had for dinner, Carl in general, really. If I was staying in that house, I would be terrified that I would wake up in the middle of the night and he would be standing there in the doorway asking me if I wanted a glass of warm milk. Lynne says that she thinks Tom is starting to notice her, but that she also thinks Carl is pretty cute, which I guess doesn't really surprise me. These two would make the perfect weird couple. The next day, they all go out looking for the Yeti. So Tom is like, hey, I think I saw a deer, so I'm gonna go try to kill it because I'd rather eat that than the crap we're having at Carl's. Because this is a good idea. Everybody split up in the woods. Tom starts hearing the thumping heartbeat of the Yeti, because that makes a lot of sense. And this is when he's attacked and killed by somebody wearing a really crappy costume. Apparently, they spent 5 hours looking for Tom. Lynne is convinced he's dead, but Dr. Prell is like, no, he's probably fine. Tom's an experienced woodsman. He probably decided to spend a night in the woods in a makeshift hut. I'm serious, he actually says that.
Right at this very moment, he's warming his toes over a fire in some makeshift hut. It's so like Tom to pull a stunt like this.
Is it? Is it really? How would you know that? You're his teacher. So based on all the time you've spent with Tom in the classroom, You think it's so like him to do something like this. Spend a night in the woods. The next morning, Lynne is obviously still worried that Tom hasn't come back, and Carl kind of starts hitting on her.
People say I have a good sense of humor.
Uh-huh. Is that all they say?
Oh, please, Doctor, and I can't see anything without my glasses.
Now, you may be thinking, why the hell would he do this? Considering the circumstances, this is very inappropriate behavior. And yeah, but you gotta remember, they're on Carl's private island. And what do we know about guys who own private islands? They're very rich, and rich people didn't get that rich by playing by the rules. You know, you gotta steal a few pairs of glasses here and there. Anyways, I guess Carl tries to impress her by telling her the story about what happened to Laughing Crow. 7 or 8 years ago, he was attacked by a Yeti who kept him in a cave, but he escaped, and after 2 weeks of wandering through the woods, he found his way back to the reservation, but his tribe thought he was full of shit, so they beat him severely, cut his tongue, and cast him out for lying, which just seems extremely harsh to me. Did you have to call him a liar? Nobody likes that. Meanwhile, the others are out looking for Tom, and Dr. Prell tells Karen to go look by the quarry.
Karen, check out the ruins down by the quarry. Keith, you stand guard here.
And if I was Karen, I would be like, yeah, how about no? Isn't splitting up how Tom got lost in the first place? And why are you telling Keith to stand guard? We're in the middle of the forest. What is he guarding? If anything, he should be coming with me. Then she finds Tom's leg. And I guess instead of calling the authorities to investigate, they're like, hey, let's take the leg home with us. Lynne chooses to go outside and sweep the grass. And then she sees something in the greenhouse that freaks her out and she starts screaming. And that's one thing I'll say. For a movie called Shriek of the Mutilated, it's not lying. There is a lot of shrieking and screaming in this movie, too much of it, actually. When I was watching it, I had to keep the remote in my hand with my finger on the volume button ready. I hate that. So Lynne runs away, but drops her glasses. Oh no, she can't see a thing without those. It's a good thing that just happened to be established a few minutes ago, and then she manages to get her foot stuck in some rocks. I guess the smart thing to do would be to keep trying to move forward instead of just taking a step back to dislodge it. So of course, since she's hopelessly stuck, she becomes the next victim of the Yeti. Like I said, there's a hilarious amount of shrieking and shouting in this. It's like a masterclass in overacting.
Now you've gone too far.
I don't think I've gone far enough.
Karen wants to leave considering that, you know, 2 people are now dead, but Prell is like, we can't leave. My whole reputation is at stake here. Won't you think of my reputation? If we go back without any proof that the Yeti exists, everyone will call me a liar, and that will be horrible. Just ask Laughing Crow, he'll tell you. So Prell tries to sell the idea to Keith that they should use Tom's leg as bait and put it in a trap.
This can never be of any use to Tom anymore.
Wait a minute.
Be realistic.
Yeah, Keith, let's get real here. Tom has been missing for almost 24 hours now, so I'm pretty sure the rule of finders keepers applies to the leg. And even if Tom is still alive, it's really his fault. I mean, he shouldn't have left it lying around.
How's this?
I just want to say, I love how fast Carl came back with those chains. It's like he's got those ready to rock and roll at all times, which really shouldn't surprise me, I guess. So it appears that Karen is really the only person who has 2 brain cells to rub together because she thinks this whole thing is ridiculous. And she tries to convince Keith that Dr. Prell is crazy. People have died on this expedition before. But Keith is like, nah, I want to see how this all shakes out.
Claire was right. You're a madman. You killed his friends and now you're killing ours.
They use Lynne's body to try and lure out the Yeti, but things don't go exactly as planned when Keith discovers that the sound of the Yeti's heartbeat is coming from a speaker. Something's wrong here. It's all fake. The Yeti is fake. The guns are fake. These guys are crazy. Keith then takes off in the van because screw Karen. I mean, if you take her with you, she's gonna spend the whole ride home saying, I told you so. So it's much easier to just leave and not admit that you were wrong and just avoid that embarrassment altogether. Karen wakes up and sees the Yeti running towards the house, but it's really just Carl in a costume. And this really sucks. I mean, nobody wants to have to wake up and deal with something like this right away. I need at least 15 minutes to lie there and browse my phone so that I can just mentally prepare for the start of a new day. Just ease into it that way. Well, it looks like Karen has been scared to death, and a bunch of people show up at the house for a big breakfast, but Keith crashes the party with a police officer. But it turns out the cop is in on the whole thing, because that's right, it's a cult of cannibals, and it involves a Yeti legend or something, and Dr. Prell wants Keith to carry on the legend. And I guess Keith doesn't really have a choice, because it turns out that strange dish he's been eating, ginseng, is actually human meat. So if he refuses, Dr. Prell says he's gonna tell his friends and family that he ate human meat. And I mean, sure, he didn't know that he was eating human meat, but then you have to go around and explain that to everybody, and that's just a hassle. Plus, these people are kind of mean. He tries to escape at one point, and they surround him and start stabbing him with forks, but not deep enough to hit any organs, I guess, just enough to convince him to come back and join the cult. And what better way to get started than by eating Karen?
White meat or dark?
And that is just unbelievable. You mean to tell me that Laughing Crow could talk this whole time? So he is a liar. The funny thing is that since it was Carl in a costume the whole time, I guess it kind of was some Scooby-Doo type shit. Except that, I don't really remember any cannibals in Scooby-Doo. But then again, I never saw every episode of that show. I will give these guys some credit though, because they were very committed to the whole thing. I mean, the costume, the planning, the props, the stories. This was quite the performance. That's a lot of work. Like I said at the beginning, there's a lot of unintentionally funny moments in this movie, but overall, I would say the story failed to deliver. And maybe part of that is because I just wanted to see more stuff happen with the Yeti, even if it was fake. Little known fact about me, I've always thought that Yetis were super cool. When I was a kid, I wanted this game called Rock Jocks because it had a Yeti in it. And back when I was in college, I made a radio play called Revenge of the Yeti. And the funny thing about that is that it was slightly similar to this movie in the sense that it had a fake Yeti in it, but that's just by coincidence because, I never even heard of this movie until 2 weeks ago. I want to thank all of my supporters on Buy Me a Coffee, Patreon, and my YouTube channel members. I want to thank all of you for tuning in, but that's pretty much it for this one, and I'll see you all next time. Hi, I'm Eric from Eric's Exclusive Excuses Express. It's called Express because I provide the excuses to you real quick. This is how it works with the Express Excuse electronic system, patent pending. You put the earpiece into your ear. It's disguised to look like your ear so no one will know you're wearing it. Next, put on the Express Excuse hat. As you can see, it looks just like a normal hat, but what people won't know is there's a hidden camera built into the hat. This way, I can see what you see, and I can relay excuses expressly to you from a remote location of my choosing. Tell them that you can't come into work because work is so stressful that it gives you high blood pressure. So you decided to go to the grocery store and check your blood pressure in one of those blood pressure machines, but the thing is, the machine got stuck around your arm and there's not a lot of employees working there to help you because of cutbacks, so you took a pocket knife out of your pocket and you decided to stab the blood pressure machine, but the knife went through the machine and went into your arm and cut a main artery, so you started bleeding all over the place and you had to go to the hospital. I have all kinds of excuses that I can provide to you that you can use in any situation. One of my favorites is you tell people that you have to go use the washroom and then you just leave, never come back. You could use that one. That one's free. But don't steal these. These are proprietary. I need these to run the business. So give me a call anytime, even if it's just a chat. Because the one thing that there's no excuse for is not using my excuses. Yeah. Tell them that you can't go to the party because you have plans that night to hang out with your friend Eric, and he's a really cool guy, and you don't want to let him down. Oh, you want to go to the party? Oh. So is it like a private party, or can anybody go? Or honestly, I'm surprised I didn't think of that for parties when I was in college. You know, having a popcorn maker at the house, that would have been pretty. Only for parties though, because you can't have it there all the time. Otherwise, you have all these people coming over just to eat popcorn. You know, then it becomes like Jumbo Video. Tell them that you can't go to the wedding because weddings remind me of just how lonely I am. Any Canadian fans, you probably know what I'm talking about. Jumbo Video was a video rental store where they had like free popcorn in bags when you went in a popcorn maker. And sometimes you just go as a kid and you just pretend to look at movies, but really you were just there to eat the popcorn.